Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be looking at how to read oracle bone numerals. The scribes of Shang dynasty China recorded many numbers using the oracle bone script. So this script in modern Chinese is called Jiaguwen, and what it means is that the script is written on cattle bones and tortoise plastrons, so the underbelly of the tortoise shell. And the scribes, they will just etch these glyphs, I'll call them glyphs, onto the bones and the shells, and there usually be inscriptions written in forms of queries, maybe some divinations, prognostications, and records. And oftentimes they'll heat up these shells to interpret what is going to happen in the future. So it's used to foretell the future. So it's a form of oracle, hence oracle bone script in English. Okay, but we're going to focus mainly on numbers, numerals. And there were 13 distinct glyphs for representing numerals using what is now considered the decimal system. So this is how they look like in ancient China back in the day. So during the Shang dynasty, that's roughly the 13th century, actually, no, the 17th century BCE to 11th century BCE. That's how they record the numbers. And these scripts were largely found to be around 13th century BCE, starting then. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers. That is 1. That's just 2 strokes horizontally written. 2. Okay, we're going to get a pattern here. 3, 4. All right, so 4 has 4 strokes. Okay, 5 looks kind of like a 2 bars with an X in the middle. So let's just write that. Okay, 6 has 2 variants. So some write it like this, but it can also be written like that. So the 2 versions of 6. Let me just put a slash in between, so to make the difference there. 7. Okay, so 7. This looks like a plus sign almost, or T. 8 looks like this, like 2 curves. 9. All right, so 9 also has 2 variant glyphs. So one's look like that. Let's add a bit more of a tail at the end there. And the other one looks almost like a I'm not sure how to describe that, but it looks kind of like a some sort of sickle. But whatever that glyph is supposed to represent, I'm not too sure. All right, so that's number 9, and number 10 is a vertical bar. All right, so these symbols, they do look kind of like modern Chinese glyphs, a lot of them. So I'm going to write some of the modern Chinese characters. 1 looks the same, 2 looks pretty much the same, except it's not so symmetric in length or congruent in length for the bars. 4 looks different. Okay, so 4 now looks like that. 5 still looks somewhat similar. 6, you can see some resemblance. 7, I guess they added a hook. 8 looks very similar, but easier to write these days. 9, okay, so 9 looks like that. So it looks kind of like this one. It looks kind of like a claw. All right, number 9. And 10, 10 looks like the ancient oracle bone script for 7, but now it means 10. So that's 1 to 10. There are more symbols. Okay, so let's take a look at other numbers. I'm gonna tilt this down a bit. Let's look at 100. So 100 looks like that. So there's a 1, and it can be written like that with a triangle inside a circle, or sometimes they just write it like this with an upside down V shape, and that's 100. Let me just make a bar here. Okay, so those are 2 variant glyphs for 100. And 1000. Okay, so 1000 is actually the ancient character for man, and we'll talk about why they use that character with a 1 across it. So this means 1000. And we'll later see what happens when you increase the multiples of these powers of 10. So it's 1000, and let's take a look at 10,000. So this is a symbol that's important in ancient China, and it is the shape of a scorpion. Okay, so 10,000 it is. Another English word for 10,000 is the myriad. Okay, so these days we use the word myriad to mean many things, many. And back in the day, the word myriad in English can also mean 10,000. All right, so let's take a look at the comparison of 100. So 100 looks kind of similar. Now, it's speculated that this symbol, this glyph, is actually a representation of a toe. I'm not too sure that's true, but that's what the scholars have come to the conclusion. At least it's hypothesized to be a toe. So this is actually a man with a bar in the middle, and modern Chinese 1,000 looks like that. And in modern Chinese, at least in traditional script, it looks like that. Now, let's try to read this in ancient archaic Chinese. Of course, this is just a reconstruction, but some of these are said to be homophones with certain words. So let's start with number 5. So we can see that the first 4 numbers are just tallies. So there's not much to explain where that comes from. But if you look at number 5, it is made out of 4 strokes, but it's supposed to be a homophone with this character in modern Chinese. So in Mandarin is called Wu. Both of these characters called Wu, but this is surprisingly the same. Well, it doesn't sound the same, but it's still a homophone back in the day, and it used to be pronounced something like nga, which also means I guess midday. Yeah. Okay. So 6. Now 6 is supposed to be what was the word? It's a homophone for this word ru, which means to enter, and that's in ancient Chinese, and that's modern Chinese, modern Mandarin. But back in the day, both of these would sound very similar, so it's pronounced something like "ru." Okay. 7. This is supposed to be a homophone for the word "tie," which in ancient Chinese, archaic Chinese, is pronounced something like "sneak," and 8 is pronounced something like "brat," and that is supposed to be this character. Now you still see the 8 on top, and this means to separate. And by the way, this character here, it has its origins from simpler glyphs in the past, but they had to invent new characters with some differentiation, from some difference to separate them. All right. At 9 is supposed to represent an arm, so that's why this looks like a claw with an elbow, and it comes from this character, or this glyph also evolved into this character, so which means the elbow. Okay, so that's where these words are from. And also, this is pronounced gu in ancient times. Both of them are pronounced like that. Okay, so glyph 400. This used to be pronounced bra, and 1,000 used to be pronounced snin, and 10,000 used to be pronounced mrats. All right, so that's it. Okay, so what happens when we want to write multiples of these powers of 10s? Like, let's say we want to write 20, 30, 40, 200, 300, 400, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. What do we do? Well, in the ancient Oracle bone script, the scribes of the Shang dynasty, what they did was they just stacked numbers in a multiplicative way most of the time. And the truth is, it wasn't very consistent how they did this. So let me just erase all this and show how they used to stack these symbols. Okay, so let's say we want to write the number 20. All right, so we want to write the number 20. What we need to do is we need to draw 2 10s and just join them together. So that's how they usually write it. 30 is the same principle. We just draw 3 10s and we join them like that. It's a bit of a V shape. 40, similar idea. You're just going to draw 4 bars, 4 10s, and you just join them. But starting from 50, it's a bit multiplicative. Okay, actually, it is multiplicative. So what you do is you write 10, that represents 10, and you need 5 of them. So this is put the 5 underneath. That's 50. Okay, so 60, it works very similar. You put a 10 on top, and you draw the glyph for 6 beneath. Same as 70. So you draw 10, and it look kind of awkward, but just write the glyph for Actually, they to make it easier to read, what they do is they draw the 10 on the side, and then there you go. So that's 70, and then 80. It just looks like this. Now you can probably guess how 90 looks like. 90 is going to look like 10 on top with a 9. So let me just draw that claw there. So that's 90. Okay, so if you want to do 200, well, what they do is they put the 2 on top of the 100. So let me just draw the 2. So something like that. Okay, you can also draw with the upside down V, as we saw earlier. 300, it'll be like this. 3 with 100. Okay. 400, 4 bars for 4. Getting a hang of this. 500, this time they put the 5 on top. Yeah. 600, they put the 6 on top. The bar here represents 1 at the start. So, 100, 200, 300, 400. But then with 6, they just put 6 with the total symbol, and so on and so forth. So you can guess how the next ones will look like. Very similar. Let's take a look at thousands. Okay, so let's write the 2000 here. 2000. That will be a glyph for man with 2 bars. Simple. Glyph for man, 3 bars. 4 bars. All right, so let's look at 5,000. So 5,000, they draw the glyph for man, but they put the 5 right there, replacing what will be the bars for 1,000 to 4,000. And but here's the thing: numbers like 8,000, and there's a skip because we don't really find a lot of these inscriptions with other numbers. They decide to put the 8 on top, so it's not very consistent. It's not very consistent how they draw these, and they actually put the 1,000 here, so it's 8 times 1,000. Okay, so that's how 8,000 looks like. What was the largest number that they ever written down back in the day? Well, that was 30,000. So the way they write 30,000, you get a better pen here. So 30,000, they just draw the scorpion with 3 bars. So that's 30,000. Okay. So that's it for multiples of the powers of 10. Okay. Now let's move on to what happens when you want to write numbers that are not, that has more detail. So let's take a look at numbers like 11. So how did they write 11? Well, once again, writing workable numbers is not consistent, so they just wrote however they like, as long as it's readable. So here, when you look at 11, you're actually looking at the 1, the 10 for 10, and then the 1 on top of that. So it's 10 plus 1, 11. All right, let's look at 12. So 10 plus 2, 13. Make sense? All right. Now for 14, there's several glyphs that showed up. So that's been shown. So sometimes they write like this, 10 plus 4. But you can just write it like this with 4 plus 10. It's additive in that way. And sometimes they write it from left to right or right to left, like this. 5 plus 10. They don't write 10 first, 10 on the left and 5 on the right. They write 10 on the right and 5 on the left. So you can get numbers like that. We can look at 16 being written like this. So it's not always consistent. Sometimes they write it above, like this one, right? 4 plus 10 or 10 plus 4 for 14. But you got, in this case, this would be 17. 10 plus 7. 10 being on top. And you can do the same thing with numbers like 25. You can put like the 20 on top, 5 on the bottom. All right, 41. So they can write with the 40 on top. Let's just draw that, 41. Okay, so let's look at larger numbers. Let's say we want to draw 159, the glyph for 159. Well, it consists of 3 glyphs. You need 100. Write 100 like that. Okay, so you need the 5, but 50, so you need the 10 on top of the 5, and then a 9. You can draw the claw, but you can also draw this symbol for 9. We've seen that earlier. There's 2 symbols of 9. Okay, so let's take a look at numbers like 2,656. So as you can see, sometimes they write from down up, from up down, from left right, right left. Well, you can't do that from right to left. So here's 2,000, and they'll write the 600. It's gonna look ridiculous here. So 600, and then they put the 50 right underneath the 600, and then they put the 6 on the left side, right there. So they kind of just bunch together, and you just need to know the symbols and the place values to know what to add. So as long as you have a symbol that represents thousands, you know this is 2,000. It could be placed here, here, or up there, down there. It doesn't matter. They just add up to that total number. So it's more of a tally system with powers of 10. It's like a more advanced version of tally in a way. All right. And one thing that archaeologists have found is that there's an additional glyph that's sometimes used. It looks like this, which is kind of unfortunate because it looks kind of like 9. All right. Sometimes it's even drawn in this direction, so it looks even more like 9. But that is not 9. That actually means to have or and as an additive principle. So if they write a number like this, let's say they write a number that looks like this. So that's 600. They draw these glyphs not for 9. Okay, so that'll be in the version of writing 50. What they mean here, let's make that tail more pronounced there. This is 600 and put a plus sign there, 50 and 9. So this is actually 659. And there you go. This is how you read ancient Chinese Oracle bone script numerals. They're not that great, but they're moving towards the decimal system, and it'll later be systematized probably by the Zhou dynasty. Yeah, there it is. See you next time.